In the summer of 64 AD, Rome stood as the beating heart of a vast empire, a sprawling metropolis of marble and might, home to more than 1 million people, from the grand columns of its temples to the bustling energy of its forums. It was the center of the known world, a symbol of power and permanence. Under the golden light of the setting sun, the city seemed eternal, invincible. But beneath its grandeur of stone and marble, much of Rome was a labyrinth of narrow, winding streets, packed with timber-framed apartment blocks and rickety wooden shops. This was the city of the people, a dense and flammable tinderbox in its crowded districts. Life was vibrant but precarious, a single spark could threaten thousands. The magnificent capital, for all its glory, was a city vulnerable to disaster, living on the edge of a catastrophe it could not yet imagine. The air was calm, the markets were closing, and unsuspecting Rome settled in for the night, unaware that its world was about to change forever. On the night of July 18th, a flicker of light appeared in the southern part of the city. Flames erupted in the shops surrounding the Circus Maximus, Rome's great chariot racing stadium. Fanned by a strong summer wind, the fire quickly leaped from one wooden structure to another, feeding on the oils, textiles, and timber stored in the merchant stalls. The glow on the horizon grew from a distant flicker to a terrifying orange inferno. Shouts of alarm turned into screams of panic as people awoke to the smell of smoke and the roar of a rapidly spreading blaze. Rome, the eternal city, was awakening to its greatest catastrophe. For 6 long days and 7 nights, the fire raged, consuming the city with an insatiable hunger. It was a storm of flame, a roaring beast that devoured everything in its path. Warehouses filled with grain exploded like bombs, sending showers of sparks into the sky. Igniting new fires blocks away, the narrow streets acted like funnels, creating terrifying fire whirls that tore roofs from buildings. Entire districts vanished into ash and rubble. The sky above the capital of the world glowed a constant, hellish red, visible for miles. By the time the flames were finally brought under control, 2/3 of Rome lay in smoldering ruins. The heart of the empire was a wasteland of blackened stone and sorrow. As chaos engulfed his capital, Emperor Nero, who had been away at his villa in Antium, rushed back to Rome. He didn't stand by and watch. He immediately took charge of the relief efforts. He opened his own imperial gardens and other public buildings, like the Pantheon, to shelter the tens of thousands who were now homeless. To combat starvation and prevent riots, he ordered emergency shipments of grain from across the empire and dramatically lowered the price. For the suffering populace, Nero was seen moving among the people, organizing firefighters and coordinating aid. In the face of disaster, the emperor appeared to be a leader, a protector of his city. But amidst the smoke and despair, whispers turned into accusations. Rumors began to spread through the ruined streets like a poison. People claimed Nero had intentionally started the fire to clear land for a magnificent new palace. The most infamous story of all was that the emperor, a lover of music and theater, had watched the city burn from a tower while playing his lyre and singing about the fall of Troy. Whether there was any truth to these tales didn't matter. In the minds of the desperate and grieving populace, the emperor who composed poetry was now a monster who fiddled while Rome burned. The line between rumor and reality was lost in the haze. With public opinion turning against him, Nero needed a scapegoat to deflect the blame. He found one in a small, misunderstood religious sect known as the Christians. They were a secretive group, viewed with suspicion by many Romans for their strange beliefs and refusal to worship the Roman gods. Nero declared them arsonists, accusing them of hating humanity and conspiring to destroy the city. A brutal persecution began. Roman soldiers stormed their meeting places, dragging men, women, and children to their deaths in the arena. It was a calculated act of political cruelty, designed to redirect the public's anger and wash the emperor's hands of the catastrophe. Then, on the vast swaths of land cleared by the fire, Nero began construction on a project of unprecedented extravagance, the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. It was not just a palace. It was a sprawling private city within the city, covering hundreds of acres. It featured a man-made lake, rotating dining rooms, and walls covered in gold and precious gems. At its entrance stood a colossal bronze statue of Nero himself, over 100 feet tall. For many Romans who had lost everything, this opulent palace rising from the ashes of their homes was the ultimate proof of Nero's guilt. It seemed he had burned their city simply to build his personal paradise. The Great Fire and the construction of the Golden House marked the beginning of the end for Nero. The immense cost of rebuilding Rome and funding his lavish palace forced him to devalue the currency and impose heavy taxes, angering both the common people and the elite. Discontent festered across the empire. Soon, powerful governors in the provinces rose in open rebellion. The Senate, which had long tolerated his excesses, finally found its courage and declared Nero a public enemy. His power evaporated overnight. Abandoned by his guards and allies, Nero fled Rome in disguise. A hunted man, a few miles outside the city, with his enemies closing in, he took his own life, reportedly crying, "What an artist dies in me." The Great Fire of 64 AD forever reshaped the physical landscape of Rome, leading to new building codes and wider streets. But more profoundly, it reshaped history, cementing a legacy of tyranny and madness. While historians today doubt he started the blaze, the event became inseparable from his name. It was the catastrophe that exposed the fractures in his rule and set in motion his inevitable downfall. A city burned, a people suffered, and an emperor's controversial legacy was sealed in ash, leaving behind a story of tragedy and ambition that echoes through the ages.